Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
So welcome to the class. I think today's class is the lecture number 8 or 9. I forgot already. So we are more than halfway through. Right? The total number of lecture is 14. So tonight's lecture is 8 or 9. I will check. Okay, so before we start our class, let me remind you 7 academic requirements that you need to fulfill in order to get your PhD. Yeah? Bapak Fauzi, can you write in the chat box? 7 academic requirements to get a PhD at Unishams. These requirements are stated in your student guideline and in your thesis guideline. So I encourage everyone to download in your portal. Yeah, you can download your offer letter and the thesis guidelines and the student guidelines. But I will mention to you, but it doesn't mean you don't have to read. Yeah, you need to read these guidelines. Number 1, the 7 academic requirements to get your PhD at Unishams. Number 1, can Bapak Fauzi write in the chat box? Number 1 is MFQ. Number 1, MFQ 8113, advanced research methodology. So that's number 1 that you need to pass. Yeah, the 7 requirements that you need to pass. Number 2, colloquium 1. Number 3, proposal defense. Number 4, colloquium 2, in bracket mock viva. Number 5, the real viva. The real viva. Number 6, English competency. Right? And number 7, I forgot already. Let me repeat. Number 1, MFQ 8113, advanced research methodology. Number 2, colloquium 1. Number 3, proposal defense. Number 4, mock viva. Number 5, real viva. Number 6, English competency. And number 7, publication. Yeah, for publication, you need to publish 1 article in International Refereed Journal, and number 2, 1 article in a journal status Scopus or was or era. Did you get it? Any questions? Miss Habiba, any question? Again, let me remind you to read all the documents, download and read all the documents, yeah? So for the English competency, you have a choice, yeah? To
Rob,
take, yes, go ahead.
one question, please.
Yes, go ahead, Bapak Indra.
Saiful, Prof.
Oh, Dr. Saiful, ya, silakan.
Dr. Indah sedang sibuk.
Ya, Bapak Indra sedang sibuk nampaknya, ya. Sedang sibuk menulis, ya.
Sibuk menulis. Yeah, Prof, it's about the publication. Actually, we know that when we put the name of author, it is limited for 2 or 3 authors. So is it possible to have more names, including all the colleagues in our base here, so we can have more citation. For example, if I publish one paper, then I will try to put his name, Bapak Indra, Bapak Fauzi, Bapak Fahri, Bapak Adri in especially after your name. So is it possible to do that, or restricted by universities law or something like that?
Good question. Okay, good question. In order to be counted towards your requirement, number one, the first author must be the student's name. If
Yeah.
if the first author is not under the student's name, it's not counted.
Okay.
That's number one. Number two, the co-authors must be your supervisors, that is your main and your co-supervisors.
Okay.
No one else should be there. So either Scopus or ERA or WAS or International Reference Journal. That is the requirement. And the topic should be related to the topic of the research of your thesis.
So it is restricted only for the author and the supervisor's name. Prof?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's not counted towards the publication.
What about if I put Pak Fauzi for the fourth author? Is it also?
It's not. I'm afraid it's not counted towards the PhD requirement. It's counted as your publication, but it's not counted towards your PhD requirement.
And for PhD requirement, it's only one. Is that true?
For PhD requirement, every student needs to publish in one international reference journal,
Okay.
and one in either Scopus or WAS or ERA.
Okay.
So for example, you have one international reference journal and one Scopus, is all right. Or one international reference journal and one WAS, is all right. Or one international reference journal and one ERA, is all right. So based on my experience, ERA is the easier one, yeah, compared to Scopus and WAS, yeah. And the names.
And yeah. What about the article processing fee, Prof? is there any sponsor from university, or it is on by student cost?
Good question. Actually, what has been practiced in most universities is the student need to pay the cost.
Okay.
It is what has been practiced in most universities and at Unishams also.
Okay.
But if you do under my supervision, I will share the cost. Yeah. For example, if the cost is 2,000 for Scopus, for example, and there are 3 authors, your name, a main supervisor, myself, and co-author, we divide by 3. 2,000 divided by 3.
Alhamdulillah.
But that's for me. But under other supervisors, you have to talk to them.
Thank you very much.
Usually they don't contribute. The practice is they don't contribute. So,
Okay.
so for me, that's how I practice with my students. We divide the course, yeah?
I'm Prof. In our international conference this month, if I have a supervisor or co-supervisor, it means the 3 authors for in the international conference, myself and co-author and co-supervisor and supervisor. It means 3 authors for the requirement of the PhD for international journal reference.
That's correct. That's
Okay.
correct.
Alhamdulillah, thank you.
So you can put my name and your co-supervisor. You can-
Alhamdulillah. Okay.
Yeah. So the fee is only 50 ringgit to present and 100 ringgit to publish. That means 150 ringgit. So we divide 50 ringgit each. If you have one co-supervisor, right? So we divide. So that means each will pay 50 ringgit. Yeah.
Excuse me, Prof.
Yes. Go ahead.
Uh, if like me, still don't have the supervisor, how?
You can check with Dr. Tahir, yeah, and he will tell you with one condition: you must be registered. Otherwise, he will not tell you because that is the rule of the university, and he doesn't want to break the rule.
Yeah, that's why the question is coming from me.
Yeah,
Because I'm not registered yet.
yeah. So you don't know yet. So you can put any names, and it's not counted towards your PhD requirement, but there will be another conference. Yeah, in that conference you can put your supervisor's name.
So mean for the next conference.
Yeah, there'll be many more conference. Yeah,
Okay. Thank you, Prof.
you're welcome. For this conference, you can present. You can put any name, but it's counted as your presentation and your publication for your CV, right? But it's not counted towards your PhD requirement.
So meanings I can put my name under my previous university. Yeah?
Sure. Yeah,
Okay, Prof. Thank you, Prof.
you're welcome. So I hope everybody will present, yeah? Whether you have main supervisor or not, just to increase the number of publications. although the requirements are only 2, I expect that you can publish as many as possible before you go for your Viva. Sorry. Because it's good for your own CV, right? So I think if you, I think you will have no trouble to publish in Era Journal, inshallah. I will guide you to publish in Era Journal. And in Malaysia, the conference for Era is done every month. So if you miss this one, there'll be another one for Era. So it's usually published within 2 months of the presentation for Era, but for Scopus and WAS, it takes much longer. It takes much longer.
1 year.
We cannot tell how long it will take. Sometimes 5 to 1 year, 5 months to 1 year sometimes for Scopus and WAS, yeah? Okay.
I'm sorry, Prof.
Sure, go ahead.
I try to help Mrs. Habibah to join the classroom, but the technical problem. Is there code class, Prof? What the code class it mean?
The what?
Is there the code class is a password
I
for
gave,
join
I
for
gave,
join? Yes,
I gave to her already.
already. Okay, Alhamdulillah. Thank you, Prof.
Yes. Miss Habiba. I think she is with us. All right. So I hope everybody will present, yeah. So the deadline to submit to register, submit your abstract and presentation is on the 17th. So you have about 17 days from now. Inshallah, everybody will present, inshallah, yeah.
Alhamdulillah, I have the article, Prof, and this time is still review from my co-supervisor, Dr. Muhammad Pakana, Rector of Atibia Madalan. Inshallah, next week I send to Miss Hafsa the email.
Okay. Okay, good. You can send to, yeah, you can reply to the email. And for video, she will give the link to Telegram, yeah? Because sometimes it's difficult to send your video through email because of the space, yeah? Yeah, sometimes it doesn't go through. So she will give you the Telegram. If you have trouble, then I will give you the Telegram. You can ask me for the link to the Telegram, yeah? From my past experience, we find that the videos that were sent to Telegram have no trouble for us to recover or to download, yeah? But from our experience, if you send to email, sometimes we cannot open. Sometimes the sender cannot send, yeah? Because video takes a lot of space. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, let's continue. Where were we last time? So let's continue with the structure of a dissertation or thesis, yeah? Some are in English, some in Bahasa. So, bab 1, chapter 1, pengenalan, introduction, ya. Chapter 2 is literature review. Chapter 3, research methodology. Yeah, so same as your assignment number 2, you need to write chapter 1, introduction, chapter 2, literature review, chapter 3, research methodology, right? So for those of you who have submitted to your assignment 1, you must now write chapter 1, chapter 2, and chapter 3. Any questions on assignment 2? Okay, let's just repeat what should be in the chapter 1, yeah? Chapter 1 is introduction. And it contains introduction, background of the study, problem statements, research objectives, research questions, research scope and limitations. For quantitative, this is a structure of research proposal for quantitative studies. You can put operational definitions here. Research significance, research contribution, and organization of dissertation or thesis. Yeah, for literature review, past research and literature review. You need to do literature review using the template, like we discussed in the last lectures. Any question? Everyone must fill in the literature review template that I give to you. Then you write the literature review based on the template. Yeah. Any questions on that one? You can ask. Any questions? Any problems that you face?
Sir, my question is, Salaam alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Go ahead.
My question is out of the box here, please. Is concerning the code you gave me is wrong, sir. The code you text me on WhatsApp is wrong, sir.
I have no idea.
There used to be this code, like in the Google class, when you want to have access to any assignment, you have to use a code.
I gave you the code.
Sadiq, what you gave me is is incorrect. It's just like 3-letter words or 4-letter word, will I say?
That is the correct. I will give
Should
to
I
you.
say?
I will give to you again.
Okay, sir. I'm waiting.
Okay. Any question on this one?
Hello, Prof.
Yes. Go ahead.
How about organization of dissertation? What will we write the organization of dissertation?
Okay. Good question. So for the organization of dissertation, what you need to write is, you need to explain, number 1, how many chapters will be in your dissertation. For example, you say something like, this thesis or this research contains 5 chapters. Chapter 1 explains the introduction to the research that contains, among others, introduction, background, problem statement, objective, and other subtopics. Chapter 2 elaborates literature review that consists of past researchers and literature review of significant and related studies to the topic, right? Chapter 3 elaborates research methodology. In this chapter, it discusses research design, methods of data collection, methods of data analysis, etc. Right? Chapter 4 is about research findings. In this chapter, this chapter discusses the findings of the study. And then you need to explain a little bit more about what is expected, what your study is expected to reveal, right? What is your expected findings, yeah? Because at this stage, we don't know yet what the findings will be. And then chapter 5 chapter 5 covers discussion of the findings, recommendations, and conclusions. Something like that. Okay. Let me show
Okay,
you.
Prof. Thanks, Prof. It's in about structure of dissertation, all, Prof.
True. Let me share with you an example. Yeah? Okay, this is just an example. Yeah. So structure of the thesis or your dissertation, yeah. But here at UNISHAMS we call thesis. Structure of the thesis. Okay. This is just an example. This thesis is organized into 6 chapters. Okay. If you plan to write 5 chapters, then you write 5 chapters, yeah. Chapter 1 provides the introduction to the study, which includes problem statement, research questions, research objectives, scope, significance, contributions, and limitations of the study. Chapter 2 provides a description of concepts and management of zakat. Chapter 3 reviews previous studies which have examined relationships between attitude, subjective norm, perceived behavioral controls, moral obligation, and religiosity with intention and compliance behavior. Chapter 4 explains theoretical framework and methodology used in this study. Chapter 5 reports research findings, which include assessment of measurement model and assessment of structure model. Chapter 6 elaborates recapitulation of the study, discussions of the findings, implications of the study, suggestions for future research, and conclusions of your study. Basically, it recaps, yeah, it recaps what are in the table of content, right? So it explains to the readers the chapters that are included in this research. Usually, students write 5 chapters. It's all right. Yeah, the minimum is 5 chapters. But this student, he writes 6 chapters, which is also all right. Yeah. So the minimum requirement is 5 chapters. And the maximum is 6 chapters. You cannot write 7 chapters, yeah? Okay. Any other question?
Sir.
Yeah,
Sir,
go ahead.
the chapter 6 is a summary of what? You said the student wrote 6 chapters, right? Then the chapter number 6 is a summary of what?
Okay.
Because organization of a study or dissertation means summary of each chapter, right? If I get you clear.
It explains to the readers
Now,
chapters that are included in your study. Yeah, it explains to the readers the chapter
okay.
that the chapters that are included in the studies. So
Yes.
if you write 5 chapters, then you explain all the 5 chapters, right?
Chapters.
If you write 6 chapters, then you explain what are the 6 chapters
6
about.
chapters.
That is just an example.
Yeah.
You can write 5 chapters, yeah? Maybe your question is why that student wrote 6 chapters. Maybe that is your question, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Then I'm asking like, what does that 6 include? I'm curious to know.
Yeah, you should. The question is why this guy write 6
Wrote
chapters?
6 chapters.
Why didn't he write?
Yes.
Then I can answer that question.
Okay, answer it, please, Prof.
Yeah, the reason is in this
Mm.
type of research,
Yes.
this research is about zakat, right? And
Okay.
there are many concepts. There are many concepts,
Under zakat.
philosophy and management of zakat that are not known, yeah, to the reader. So my supervisor asked me to add 1 chapter, yeah, right, to explain the concepts and management of zakat.
Okay.
Usually what we do is the concepts related to our topic is written in the introduction part in chapter 1. Usually we write in the background of the study, right? Usually that's what we do in the background of the study. What happens is there are many things to write about the concepts and philosophy of zakat, right? For example, the concepts of zakat, philosophy of zakat, zakatability on wealth, conditions of zakat, types of zakat, and rates of zakat, zakat assessment, methods A, method B of zakat assessment, contemporary resolutions on zakat, legality of zakat, zakat compliance, recipients of zakat as stated in the Quran, historical development of zakat management from the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam until now. So there are many things to write, and if this writing is put in the background of the study of chapter 1, what happens is chapter 1 will be very long. It's too long.
Okay, I get it now.
That's why this part is cut, and and written as chapter 2, because originally this guy, he put everything here in chapter 1. What happened is chapter 1 is too long. So the supervisor says, okay, this part should be a separate chapter. So that's why instead of 5, this guy wrote 6 chapters, which is still okay. All right. Good question. Any other question?
Sorry, Prof.
Yes, go ahead.
Is UNISAM have a dissertation from PhD student, Prof?
Yes, you can get from UNICEF. Yeah? You can go to UNISHAMS. Okay, let me share. You can go to UNISHAM's website. Yeah?
Okay.
Sorry. Go to library. Okay, let me try to share. Okay, what happened is every semester the library will give the instructions on how to access the library and the UNICEF, right? So at the beginning of the semester, so what happened is because you did not register, so we cannot register you to the workshop, yeah. But never mind, I will try to arrange with the library, to give information on how to access. Can you see this website, UNISHAMS?
Yes, I can see.
Right. So then you go to the service center, right? You click service center and you find library here. You find library here, right? You click on the library and what happens is, okay, you try to find UNICEF. Where is the library? Okay, let me try to find. So you have directory, tender, download. Okay, for the library, I will give you the link later, yeah? So I forgot already. Because actually the librarian will have like a workshop for 3 hours to explain to the students on how to access to thesis, books, and journal articles. Yeah, we have Emerald Publishing. We have UNICEF that includes the past thesis and also past exams and the publications by lecturers, UNICEF. So I want to show to you, but I forgot the link. Yeah, where is it? Never mind. So I will arrange with the librarians once you are all registered, because you have to register for the workshop using your metric number. So they are very smart. If you don't have metric number, you cannot register for the workshop. Okay, so inshallah, let me know when everybody is registered. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Okay, Prof. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Remind me, yeah, maybe next week we can arrange the time. All right. So any other question? Okay, now let's okay. Today's topic is on qualitative studies, mostly. The first question is when we do research, we need data, right? So what is data? Data is a collection of information, evidence, or facts from which you can draw some kind of conclusions for your study. So when we talk about research, we talk about data, right? So, and data, why data is important? It provides evidence, yeah? So in your chapter 4, you need to discuss the evidence. And the evidence is what your study finds, what your study reveals based on the data, right? Provide evidence. Why we need to provide evidence? For the validity of what your study contains. So evidence is supposed to answer your research questions, right? And evidence is supposed to achieve the objective of your study. Okay, that is obvious, yeah? So there are two types of data, quantitative and qualitative data. So basically, like we discussed before, quantitative data involves numeric information, information in numbers that can be analyzed using some kind of statistical analysis, yeah? And qualitative data basically involves stories or observations or words, right? That that the researcher obtained using, for example, the interview methods. Right? From the interview, you type what has been said by respondents, right? So that is called qualitative data, data that doesn't have numbers. Instead, it has stories and it has observations. So, and for quantitative, it's expressed as numbers such as percents or average. For qualitative, it contains the oral comment, yeah, oral comment given by the respondents, or some kind of statement, emotions or perceptions given by the respondents. Yeah, you can ask questions. Some notes are written in Bahasa. I haven't got time to translate. So the characteristics of a qualitative research, number one, in qualitative research, the researcher is the instrument. Yeah. For example, if the researcher observes the respondents, yeah, the researcher is the instrument. Yeah. So it's very important that the researcher get a proper training or have a knowledge on how to collect the data, right? So this is in qualitative research, yeah? It needs some kind of competency on the part of the researcher, yeah, to collect the data and to analyze the data. Qualitative research involves the field work, and qualitative research is about certain phenomena, certain events. So it studies the behavior of the people and some process. Yeah. So, for example, the researcher wants to study the behavior of the people in certain locations or certain events that has happened and its influence on the perception of the people, on the worldview of the people affected by the events. For example, tsunami, right? So tsunami is, or what they call the gunung berapi, yeah? Some type of events, yeah? If some people have gone through that events, yeah? Tsunami or gunung berapi or flood, banjir, yeah? Then they went through some terrible experience, right? And it affects their perception towards life. It affects their perception towards it affects their worldview, yeah, how they perceive the world. Ya, mungkin dulu jahat, sekarang sudah jadi baik, sudah insaf, for example, because of certain events that happen to them. Yeah, it happens, yeah, and certain process, yeah. So the qualitative research is inductive, yeah. So inductive means the researcher starts with data, and then from the data, the researcher will try to form thematic findings, yeah, thematic findings, and then in the end, perhaps the researcher can come up with the certain hypothesis or certain theory or certain theoretical framework. So it's the opposite of the quantitative. Yeah? Quantitative, you need to construct the theoretical framework first. Then you go and collect the data. Then you try to provide evidence to support or reject the hypothesis. But in qualitative, you don't start with framework. You start with collecting the data. Then you analyze the data, and then you come up with your own hypothesis or theory or theoretical framework. Yeah. Any question? So there are two types of data, primary data and secondary data. Primary data is the data which you collect yourself, right? So this data is unique to you. It belongs to you, and it belongs to your research. And until you publish, no one else has access to your data, right? So the second type is secondary data. Secondary data is data that has been collected by someone else for different purpose. Yeah, it can be it can be published in, for example, in companies' annual reports. It is published in websites by certain companies. Yeah. It's published in certain government statistics. So secondary data is mainly for for quantitative study, yeah, because the data secondary data are mostly in numbers. So the data that are in the form of numbers are for quantitative research. Somebody writes in chat box And when I try to click, it's gone. What happens to me? Something is wrong with my Zoom, yeah? So in qualitative research, the researcher needs to be clear about the location and the environment where the observation is to be done. Yeah. So mainly, for example, in the field of sociology, right? So the researcher will try to go to certain location. Yeah. For example, to study the behavior of certain groups of people. So the researcher needs to go to the location, and the location is usually outside of the researcher's locality. For example, a researcher from Australia might want to come to Malaysia to study the behavior of certain ethnics, yeah, certain groups of people in Malaysia. All right. So when you do the qualitative study, you have to be clear about the location and the environment where you want to do the observation. And then who will be your respondents? Yeah, must be clear. For example, you want to interview certain people, yeah? You want to do expert interview, or you want to do the focus group. So you need to be clear who you will interview. And the third thing that you want to be clear in qualitative research is you have to be clear about the events. Yeah. So for those people who study the events, for example, like I said, the tsunami events, yeah, or the big fire event, kebakaran yang besar. For example, in Indonesia, for example, ada kebakaran yang besar, that affect certain families. Certain family members died because of the fire. So you need to be clear about what events that you want to study, yeah? And then the process. The process involves the situation or the events that affect the respondents, yeah? Because in sociology, they are interested in studying the effects of the certain events or certain catastrophe, yeah, on the experience of the people, on the lives of the people, on the perception of the people. See how the events can change how people think, how people perceive things, right? Because certain events, for example, accidents, yeah, it affects uh, accidents that cause injuries, accidents that cause a fatal, that cause death. Yeah, imagine if your family members passed away because of certain events like flood or any other catastrophes. Yeah, so it affects your life. But in Islamic finance, we don't usually do this kind of research, but we will learn about it anyway. Any question? So some popular data collection methods for primary data collection instruments, both qualitative and quantitative. These are the common methods. Yeah? Interviews, questionnaires. Interviews usually for qualitative, but interviews can also be used for quantitative. Questionnaires are mostly for quantitative, and observation is used in qualitative studies. Observations is watching or observing people who engage in certain activities and record what is being observed. So let's discuss the interview method of collecting data. How you want to do interview? So interview is primarily used to gain an understanding of the underlying reasons and motivations for people's attitude, preferences, or behavior. There are two types of collecting data. One is a personal interview or face-to-face interview, where the researcher meet face-to-face with the respondents or the interviewees and ask them questions directly. Or telephone interview, okay? And there is another type of interview is e-interviews, electronic interviews, that has not been written here because this is the old notes. This is the old lecture notes. So basically, face-to-face interview, telephone interview, and electronic interview. So personal or face-to-face interview is when the researchers go and meet the respondents face-to-face. So the advantages is serious response by respondent. So the information tend to be more accurate, good response rate. You make an appointment, you go to interview, and they have no choice but to respond to you. Complete and immediate means the researchers will get a more complete information and immediate information. So, for example, if the researcher have what do you say? Are curious on certain things, the researcher can ask directly the respondents. So unlike questionnaire, where the questions are set beforehand, right? So the respondents cannot answer more than what is asked. So that's the advantage of the interview. The researcher can ask as many questions as possible, and it's not restricted to certain questions. Possible in that questions. Interviewer in control means the interviewer can follow up the questions. In case the answers given by the respondents are not the answers are not related to the questions. So the respondents can the researcher can explain the questions again to the respondents in case the respondents do not understand the questions. Okay. So the interviewer, the researcher, can give help if there is a problem in understanding the question. The researcher can investigate motives and feelings because when we go face to face, we can see their body language, the tone of their voice, how they answer, and can use recording equipment. Nowadays, there are many types of recording equipment. And characteristics of respondent can be assessed. The researcher can see the tone of voice, the facial expression. If one interviewer used uniformity of approach. So sometimes, like students, yeah, they need to interview themselves. So there is one interviewer only. So uniformity of approach, the same type of questions are being asked. And it can be used to pilot other methods. However, there are disadvantages because if the respondents are busy, if the respondents are big or very important persons, yeah, it is difficult to set up interviews, you know, and it's time consuming, and there is geographic limitations. Yeah? For example, the researcher lives very far away from the respondents. Yeah? For example, the researcher is from Indonesia and the respondents in Malaysia. So that is very far. So usually what happens is the researcher tries to limit the location of the respondents. Yeah? If you are in Java or if you are in Jakarta, then you might not want to go to Kalimantan, right? So you might find the respondents who are close to you, living in Jakarta also. So there's a geographic limitations. Yeah? It can be expensive, yeah, if the respondents live far away. Normally need a set of questions. And there is a respondent bias. Yeah? The respondent bias means the person that have a tendency to please or to impress. Yeah? Sometimes the respondents answers the question that they expect the researcher to please the researcher. Yeah? For example, if you go to Muslims, yeah, during Ramadan, just example, a researcher wants to interview respondents in Ramadan, right? And one of the question is, are you fasting today? If the respondent is not fasting, what is the answer? Bapak Fakri, suppose you go to interview a Muslim in Ramadan and you just ask the question, Bapak, are you fasting today?
Maybe I'm lying to answer.
Yes or no, right?
Yes, of
Just,
course.
just suppose, just an example. If the respondent is not fasting, what is your expected answer?
No.
Now, my question is, if the respondent is not fasting, right? And you ask the question to respondent, are you fasting today? What is your expected answer? What is he going to
No.
answer?
Yes, yes.
Oh, not fasting.
It's more likely he will say, I'm fasting, even if he's not fasting.
Really?
Yeah, that is called the respondent bias.
Especially when we have do interviews in Aceh, Prof, because we have Syariah police that will how to say to get them in the jail when they are not fasting.
I'm just giving you an example. Yeah, there are many other examples. Yeah, where the respondents might not give you the exact answer, but the respondents tend to give you answers that will please you, that will please the researcher. Yes, Madam Habibah, that is called respondent bias.
Sir, you know, when we are preparing the questionnaire, it should be, is it ended, close-ended questionnaire or open-ended?
Madam Habibah, we are talking about interviews here, not questionnaire.
Okay, okay.
Talking about interviews.
Mm,
So for interviews, we need to have the interview schedule or the interview protocol. So what is interview protocol? Interview protocol or interview schedule are set of questions prepared by the researcher before the interview, right? And the set of questions are usually set according to the research questions, to answer the research questions and to achieve the research objectives. Yeah. So it's not a questionnaire question. It's not questionnaire items.
okay, sir.
It's just a set of questions. Just like the reporter, they want to interview certain people, so they have to have
Now,
an interview schedule, we say, or interview protocol. That just
yeah.
some questions that they will ask the respondents. But of course, in the actual interview, the researcher can follow up the answers given by the respondents. Yeah? The researchers are usually free to ask the follow-up questions, even if the follow-up questions are not in the interview protocols. Yeah?
Okay.
So that's what I mean. Normally need a set of questions. Yeah?
Mm,
But when we interview, we can follow up with other questions also.
okay.
Sometimes the respondents give very interesting answers. And because it is interesting answers, then we follow up. We want to know more about, what was said by the interviewees or the respondents. Another disadvantages of interview is embarrassment possible if touch personal questions. Some people they don't like to ask certain questions. Yeah? In the US, they don't like to ask. They don't like the questions on income. You don't ask them, sir, how much do you earn per year? They don't like that question in the US. In Malaysia, it's okay. How much do you earn per year, Prof? Or I'm proud to say I earn more than 100,000 per year. Yes, I'm a rich man. In Malaysia, no problem. Yeah. In the US, is sensitive question is an embarrassment. Okay. They don't like the question on income. Yeah, they don't like questions on what else? Age. Yeah. You don't ask them, lady, how old are you? They will say, no, I'm not going to answer that question. They don't like. They don't like to
Yes.
ask questions about age and some other things. Yeah. Sometimes they don't like to ask about the questions on what you do for a living. Yeah. You seem like a millionaire. You ride luxury car. What do you do for a living? No, they don't like that question. And they will cheat. They will not tell the truth. Yeah, usually. But some people they are okay. Some people they don't like if a stranger asks them questions on what they do for a living. All right. Transcription and analysis can present problems because it involves subjectivity. So what you do is when you interview people, you need to record, right? You need to record and you must come back and type everything that was said. So that is called transcription. Sometimes it's difficult. It's a problem for researchers. If the answers are too long, imagine you need to type everything, you know? If you have 10 respondents, yeah, and the answers are too long, the person is very talkative, talks too long for 3 hours. Oh, you need to type. Imagine. So it can be problematic, yeah, can present problems. And analysis also can present problems because there's no statistics, right? It's just how the researcher perceive the answers given by the respondents. Yeah? There is a story. I'm not sure if it's true or not. There is a story that at one time a researcher from a Western country came to Malaysia in a rural village, and the researchers they wanted to observe the behavior of the Muslims. Yeah, what they do. The Muslims living in rural village. Yeah? So they observed the behavior of the people, and they interviewed certain people to ask them about the activities of their daily lives, right? So I heard the story. I'm not sure if it's true or not. Huh? It's just a story. I cannot um, I cannot prove the truth. Yeah? But it's a story anyway. Long time ago, I heard this story in a research workshop. Yeah, I attended several research workshops. Yeah, this story was told by the presenter. Yeah. All right. So the researchers used the observation and interview. So they interviewed these people, these Muslims, right? And they observed their behavior. They woke up late in the morning, and then they went to their farms, right? For a little while, they came back, they prayed, and they slept again. They slept again until evening. Yeah, after evening, they did not do anything, right? They just talked, and the wife cooked in rural village, yeah, in rural villages. And when the sun set, they eat, right? After eating, they took a shower and they prayed for a long time until midnight, right? The next day, the same thing happens. So the conclusion is the people in this village are not productive. The productivity is low. Okay. So it involves subjectivity. So what happened was, most of the times when they did the interview and the observations, it was in Ramadan. The people were fasting. And these people, these researchers, were not Muslims. So that was the problem, yeah? That is the story that, was told in the workshop, in the research workshop. I'm not sure if it's true or not. So the point of the story is to say, in research, there is a subjectivity involved, especially when the researchers are not from the community. Yeah? They don't understand what's going on in the community. All right. types of interview, there are three types: structured, semi-structured, and unstructured. First, the structured. Yeah? The structured interview contains carefully worded interview schedule. Interview schedule, like I said, is the set of questions. Yeah? Set of questions asked by the researchers to respondents. So the wording must be carefully worded. Yeah? You must use the correct wording. Otherwise, you get the wrong answer. Yeah, carefully worded interview schedule. So if you're a student, you need to confirm with your supervisor or experts that have experience in writing the interview schedule. Yeah? Frequently, the structured interview frequently requires short answers, with answers being tick off or yes, no questions. Yeah? Useful when there are lots of questions. Respondent may become irritated by having to give oversimplified answers. So that is the structured questions. Yeah? Simple questions which requires simple answer, short answer. So sometimes the person who are talkative, they feel irritated when the researchers say stop. You don't have to say anymore. So that is the nature of structured questions. It doesn't require any long explanation. Yeah? And the third one is unstructured interview. In-depth interview begins by asking a general question. So in the unstructured, what happens is the researcher will ask very general question. Then the interviewer encourages the respondent to talk freely. For example, the question like, why do you say that? Yeah, to get more information. Yeah? For example, the question starts with the general questions. For example, the researcher asks, "Sir, do you pay income tax to the zakat institutions every month or every year?" That is a type of general questions. Yeah? Then the researcher will answer. Then based on the answer, the respondents will answer the question, right? Then based on the answers given by the respondents, the researcher will follow up the questions. Yeah? For example, why do you say that? Yeah? That's interesting. Tell me more. Or what would you like to add? Anything else you would like to add? So those are the type of follow-up questions. And in the middle is semi-structured. So semi-structured is in the middle, is a combination of structured and unstructured. There are some questions which are not structured, and there are some that are structured. So it's called semi-structured. Yeah? That means the answers is longer than the structured interview. However, the answers are not expected to be too detailed or too deep, like in the unstructured interview. So semi-structured is in the middle. How to plan for an interview? First, the researcher lists the areas, yeah, and then decide on type of interview. Areas here refers to the areas of the research, yeah? Areas of the research, the aspects of the topic, the different areas of the topic of the research. and then decide the type of interview, whether structured or semi-structured or unstructured, and then transform areas, different aspects into actual questions, and then try them out. Try them out means try to ask the questions, Try to ask the questions to someone to see whether they understand your question or not. And then make an appointment with the actual respondents and discussing details with the respondents. For example, how the interview is to be conducted, when to be conducted, and where is the location, and then try to fix a venue and time for the interview. So, okay.
Can I asking, Prof?
Yes, sure, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I'm worried about my research at the change of proposal from quantitative to qualitative method. If I take focus discussion group, in many cases there are filed for the expert, Prof. How if the expert interview is later declared invalid in the focus discussion group? What needs to be done? That's Prof.
Okay, so there are two things, depending on your research questions and research objectives, right? So you can use as expert interviews or the focus group, or both, in order to answer the research questions that you put in chapter 1, right? And in order to achieve the research objectives that you wrote in chapter 1. So it's challenging to conduct an interview of experts. There are certain challenges, right? To conduct the expert interview. Number one, if the respondent is busy, then the challenge is to find time, right? But there are ways, there are ways. If the respondent is busy, is a VIP, especially if he's busy, then what you want to do is you might contact his or her PA, right? Or his or her PIC, person in charge. VIP, they have these people you want to contact, personal assistant or PA or person in charge. Then you need to write a formal letter. For PhD, we provide the letter, we provide the letter supporting the students and encouraging the respondents to please agree for an interview, with the student. We have the confirmation letter. For example, we can write, this is to confirm that I, Associate Professor Dr. Yusuf Haji Osman, is the supervisor, for Mr. Muhammad Fauzi. Okay, and please, and we give the detail, name, metric number, topic of the research, email, the WhatsApp number, right? And then we say, please the student will contact a prof, yeah, for example, the student will contact prof and set the appointment for electronic interview. Yeah, we encourage electronic interview using Zoom, yeah, for example. So we say, in the end, we say something like, we appreciate your cooperation in helping our students to finish his PhD studies successfully. So we provide that type of letter. So then the student will use a letter and email to the person in charge, because if you email to the VIP, someone who is busy, it's more likely he will not reply. Yeah, so you contact, try to WhatsApp or email the person in charge, try to set an appointment, yeah, and encourage them to take part in the study, and then try to find the reward, yeah. For example, you can say the findings of the study will be shared, and we will give you 5 copies of the books. Yeah, the findings will be published as a book and journal articles, and we will provide you with 5 copies of books and journal articles. Something like that. Yeah. So yeah, although it is challenge, it can be done. So once you set the interview using Zoom, for example, then you discuss with your supervisor the interview questions. Yeah? What questions to ask first, right? And then how to follow up the questions. So, and then after the interview, of course, you need make sure that when you interview, you record, yeah, using Zoom. And then you need to transcribe the interview. So yeah, it's challenging. And for focus group, it's more challenging because it requires many experts to meet at the same time. So it's more difficult to find a suitable time for everybody. So we do the same thing. We write the confirmation letter, and the students will have to find these people and encourage them to join at the same time. The tip is find the experts that you know. You know, it can be expert from Indonesia, anybody that you know. Don't worry about his knowledge or something like that. Somebody that you know. You can interview Dr. Saiful. Yeah, you can interview someone. For example, I was invited to be an expert in the focus group, right? To give perspective of Maqasid Sharia on the crowdfunding and Waqaf, right? So I told the students, yeah, I'm not an expert on Maqasid Sharia. And he said, Prof, please, I cannot find any other person. So I said, all right, okay, all right. You just give me the questions, yeah, before the focus group. Give me the questions in advance so that I can be prepared. Yeah? So I participated in the focus group. I was supposed to talk on the perspective of Maqasid Sharia. on Islamic microfunding and Waqf environment. And there are 4 or 5 experts. So if you can find the experts that you know personally, or your parents know, or some other connections, is much easier like that. Yeah, it can be done. That's how we usually do. Yeah, we give them the our confirmation from Unishams, and to confirm that you are doing PhD, and you give to somebody that you know. So as long as you are confident that the respondents can give you the answer, yeah, the answer to the questions that you are going to ask. Did I answer your question or not?
Thank you, Prof.
Okay, you're welcome.
Prof. I'm sorry,
Yes.
Prof.
Yes, Bapak
Uh,
Fakri, go ahead.
My question is about collecting data, Prof.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Can I collect data from newspaper?
Sure, sure. Um,
And how about write the author in the newspaper?
right, about what?
Cite the author because in paper we can write the authors who write the newspaper, or for example apa ya, the people who speak in the newspaper, or
You mean
the manager or of
you mean to use as citation, right?
yeah.
Actually,
How can we cite?
there are 2 school of thoughts. One is newspaper is not considered as ilmiah, huh? It's not considered as
Yeah.
ilmiah. Yeah. So that I belong to that madhab, yeah, that school of thought. So
Yeah.
newspaper cannot be cited because it's not considered as ilmiah, right? However, all newspapers can be used as a part of the documentation. Some people, especially in qualitative research, right? They want to study certain events that occurred in the past. For example, they want to study about uh, uh, tsunami, right? Tsunami that occurred long time ago. I cannot remember. 2014, something like that, yeah? 2013 or 2014, the tsunami occurred. And then they want to know what happens during tsunami, right? So how do you get the data on tsunami? One of the way is to use documentation. Documentation refers to old text, old text or archive of or news. In that case, it's okay, right? In that case.
Okay.
However, if in your problem statement you want to cite from newspaper, it's not okay.
Oh.
Yeah, because it's not considered as ilmiah to support your statement. Yeah, because there are lots of problems with, because newspaper is not ilmiah. It's not ilmiah means they say things that are not justified. Right? Sometimes it's wrong. They report the wrong thing.
Okay.
That's a problem. You cannot cite for your problem statement, yeah? It's not strong enough. You need to cite from journals, yeah, in most places. So newspapers can be used only in certain conditions, yeah. For example, as an archive, yeah, and you want to use archive as newspaper archive, just to get the information on something that happened long time ago. So newspapers, magazines, tabloids are not ilmiah, which cannot be cited throughout your thesis. In certain cases only, in certain types of research only, yeah. So if you are doing quantitative, yeah, I don't see where you can cite newspapers. You can cite newspapers if you want to use, qualitative studies, to study about events that happened long time ago. Then in that case, maybe. Or if you have other more trustworthy documentation, you can use. Because the problem with newspapers is sometimes they report something, they misreporting, yeah. There are lots of misreporting in the news, in the newspaper, because it's not considered ilmiah. It's not reviewed, yeah. Whatever that's written, they write today, tomorrow they publish. So if you write article, you submit today, maybe 4 or 5 months it will be published, because it needs to review. Okay, good.
How about in newspaper? Sorry, sir. How about in the newspaper? The expert who write the statement in newspaper, can we cite the expert in the newspaper?
In that case, yes. Yes,
Yes. Okay.
it's okay. For example, in your problem statement, in my thesis, for example, an expert, on zakat, I forgot the name. So he mentioned in a newspaper that the zakat collection is on increasing trend, right? However, the zakat collection is still not enough, to be given out to all the asnafs, which means that there are still certain asnafs who are not given the zakat assistance. So that is the quote given by an expert on zakat in the newspaper. So I put it in the problem statement. So in that case, it's all right. Yeah. Yeah. That is my personal opinion. I think it's all right. So as long as we can prove that what has been said is the truth. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Prof. Thank you, Prof.
You're welcome. However,
I have a question.
however, I cannot guarantee, there might be examiners who disagree. If he disagrees, then we just delete. Because it involves, some such
Okay, Prof.
activity. Some people say it's okay, some people doesn't agree. So to me, it depends, if an expert says that in the newspaper we can write, and then we see what the examiner will say about it.
Prof, I have a question, Prof.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, when we conduct expert interviews, is it necessary to do triangulation? If
No
so,
need.
how
No
should
need.
we? Yeah, if so, how do we conduct the triangulation to the expert?
Okay, good question. The first question is it necessary to do triangulation? It's not necessary. Triangulation is only used when the findings need to be supported by other methods. For example, one method is not enough to answer your research questions. One method is not enough to answer you to achieve your research objectives. Then you do triangulation. If, for example, the expert interview can give enough information to answer your research questions and research objectives, then you don't need to do the triangulation. Okay, the second question is how to do the triangulation. Okay, so let's see how we do the triangulation. Triangulation involves several methods of data collection. And the purpose of doing triangulation is for certain methods to complement the other methods. If one method is not enough to answer the research questions and research objectives, then we do triangulation. Let's see how to do the triangulation. Triangulation is a method to improve the validity and the reliability of the research. I translate from this one, from Bahasa Malaysia. Triangulasi adalah kaedah meningkatkan kesahan dan kebolehpercayaan penyelidikan. To improve the validity and reliability of the research. Number two, to improve the ketepatan, the preciseness of the researcher's interpretation, meningkatkan ketepatan pentafsiran. In qualitative research, sometimes it involves a subjectivity. The interpretation of the researcher is subjective to his preconceived idea. So, for example, if the researcher is from a Western country, he has this preconceived idea, to come in and he interprets based on his background, his preconceived idea. So, so it involves a subjectivity. So the triangulation is performed to improve the preciseness, so that you can reduce the subjectivity of the interpretation of the researcher. Kalau dia seorang daripada barat, dia akan interpret from perspektif barat, dan dia mengkaji tentang budaya timur, for example, so the researcher needs to do triangulation. If you're from Indonesia, right, and you do the qualitative research on your own people, so it reduces the subjectivity, because your thinking and the respondent's thinking are almost the same thinking, however, if, for example, even in the same country, sometimes it involves subjectivity also. For example, yeah, there are many madhabs, yeah, many madhabs. So even in one country, yeah, so your own madhab, sometimes influence your interpretation. Okay, number 3, triangulation is needed to validate data, to validate whether the data is true and not coincidence. Yeah, sometimes you got certain findings. You ask yourself whether it is just a coincidence you get that finding, or is it true? Yeah. So that's why you need another type of data, so that you can come up with the same conclusion. If more than one method can come up with the same conclusion, it's likely that your evidence is true, yeah, and not just coincidence. Okay, then how to do? There are several types of triangulation. Number 1 is triangulation based on the source of data. Number 2, triangulation based on the place or the location of the data, where you get the data. You are talking about the qualitative data, and triangulation also involves a few researchers, yeah, trying to get the data. And then at least there are 3 types of data to justify. So in triangulation, because the name is triangulation, you need at least 3 types of data. Okay. So let's talk about triangulation in terms of location. The choice of a research site depends upon the general nature of the research question. So in qualitative data, you ask yourself about the location, where you want to do the observation, for example, right? So the choice of the location depends on the research question, depends on the research objective. The area of inquiry usually suggests a behavior or a phenomena of interest. So if you choose locations, right? For example, you want to study the behavior of Muslims in rural areas, right? So in triangulation, you need at least 3 areas, right? The rural areas, I don't know the name. Area A, B, C, right? So it's not enough to do in one area. So triangulation, that means you need to select 2 or 3, usually 3, possible location, so that the data obtained from the 3 locations can complement each other. And we want to test whether it is what the researchers find is true or not. Yeah, it's not a coincidence. You want to say it's not a coincidence. Yeah, if you choose one location, it might be a coincidence. Yeah, if you choose 3 and all the 3 locations give you the same empirical results, then you can be sure is true, and it's not just coincidence. It's recommended that the researchers select 2 or 3 research location. Okay, so there is triangulation in terms of the location. We are talking about qualitative study. Okay, now triangulation in terms of respondents. So respondents are people who agree to take part in the research project. Yeah. For example, if you complete a questionnaire about your working life and then send it back to a student or academic who uses it to gain information about working life in your particular sector, you'll be a research respondent. So that is called the triangulation. Okay. First, you complete a questionnaire about you, and then you send back to a student or to lecturer, and then this lecturer uses this questionnaire to get information about working life in your area. Then you'll be a research respondent. So that is called triangulation in terms of respondent. So that means for one type of questions, you ask at least 3 different respondents. Yeah. The question goes back. A answers and then send to B, yeah, and then send to C. And check what evidence or what answers are given. And so that is called triangulation in terms of the respondents. Okay.
Prof. Yusuf,
Yes,
Yeah.
go ahead.
yeah, considering your answer about the unnecessary of making triangulation for expert reviews. So how do we measure the validity of the answer from the expert? Is it taken for granted, or we need some others methodology to make sure the validity of the answer?
Right. Sometimes is in qualitative study is subjective. So, for example, you use expert interview, right? And
Yeah.
then you ask into the expert number 1, right? And for expert interview, it's best that you use unstructured questions, right? So
Okay.
you start with the general questions, and then you listen to what his answer is, and you follow up with another questions, and then you ask the next question and you follow up, right? So you continue until you are satisfied that he gives you the answer, right? And then what happens is, if you feel like the answers are not saturated, means maybe, right, maybe there is another expert who can give what you say, different opinion, right? Or second opinion. Then you go to the next one, and then you ask about the same questions, all right? And then you see what the answers are. So, and then you go to the third one, right? And you do the same thing. So in that case, it's a triangulation. Yeah, you want to check the answers of the given by the first expert, and then the answers given by the second and the third. So it's called triangulation. So it's some sort of triangulation if you use more than one expert. So the purpose is to make sure that you got the answer that is considered true, right? If all the three experts give the same answer. So suppose the answers are a little bit different, then you need to do your own interpretation. You can give your own interpretation, and you can synthesize. For example, you might say, for example, this research concludes that based on the interviews, this is the findings, because of the different interviews. So you might want to do some kind of we call a synthesis. Synthesis means based on the answers given, you will say which are the strong opinions, which are not so strong, which are the least strong, based on your own synthesis. That's what you might want to do. If you're not confident, you say, oh, I cannot do that, I don't know. Then you might go on. You might go on and do the interview, until you find that the answers are saturated. So the more you interview, the more you gain the information, right? And you stop. You stop when you feel like, if I interview the next expert, I will not get any more information, right? So if you feel like that, then you stop. Maybe you stop at 4, maybe you stop at 5, at 6 experts, then you get more information, and that will enable you to make your conclusion, or your synthesis. For example, out of 5, 4 respondents say like this. Only 1 respondent is different. So you will say that these are the strong opinions, this things is said by 4 respondents. So it is a stronger argument, or what do you say? This is a strong cowl, strong cowl. What is in English? Strong opinions. So the opinions, the findings is strong, because out of 5 respondents, 4 of them say like this. So that's how you do. Did I answer your questions, or I make you more confused?
Yes, well, it's very clear, but I want to specifically ask about my research. Actually, I'm trying to develop a formula which is quantitative, that is generated from the expert judgment, which is qualitative. How can I justify the validity of the formula I receive from the expert judgment and expert explanation?
So, how many experts that you have interviewed?
5 experts.
And the formula given by them, are they the same or not?
No, actually, they are coming from a different background, and I need their explanation about the formula that I already structured or already made. But in the interviews, I ask them to justify the formula. So is it okay or not?
Yeah, it's okay. You don't need any statistical validation, yeah.
Hmm.
You can validate, but because you use interview, there is no such thing as statistical validation, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
For example, you want to say that this is the formula. Uh, however, the validation that you ask is more subjective, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
There's no way of doing the statistical validity, yeah. So validity here in qualitative studies, yeah, there is no statistical involved, meaning it involves your own judgment based
Yeah.
on those interviews. You synthesize, yeah. Synthesize means, in your opinion, which answer is wait, let me charge the my laptop is running out of battery. Wait. Okay, so you give them the formulas and you ask them to validate, right? Um, uh, I don't know if validation or confirmation. Yeah? For example, you want to ask them to give their judgment, right? Uh, on the formula from their perspectives, right? So, if possible, you try to take into account, right, all their answers, right? And then based on all their answers, you do the synthesis. Means you take all the answers and find that, for example, which one is a stronger argument compared to others. Yeah. If possible, you might want to take all their perspectives, right? But if not possible, you take the perspectives that you think are more important than others. Yeah, that is called synthesis. The process of extracting the ones that are important and try to rank them. Yeah, this one is more significant compared to this and compared to this. Of course, there is no statistics involved. How why you say is more significant this the justification, which one is in your opinion more significant compared to others, doesn't involve any statistics. It just involves the subjectivity. So that's how it is in qualitative research, and no statistic involved. Yeah. So so it involves your subjectivity, and yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy to do. You just need to think, yeah. Try to Google the word synthesize, yeah, and maybe it explains the process of doing the synthesis, yeah, and hopefully it can guide you more on how to do it. Yeah, I think that's the way to do it. Meaning you need to choose which ones are more superior than the other, right? Yeah, it's not easy to do. If possible, you can take all justifications, if possible. If not, you might want to choose the ones that are considered more valid than the others. Yeah. All right. Let's see how many. Oh, we have like almost 20 more slides. Yeah. So I think we can stop here, right? And then inshallah we'll continue next time. I apologize because I have to postpone this class 2 times because I've been out of location. I tried to come back, but when I reach home, it's too late already. Yeah. So when I reached home, it was way past 8, and I was too tired, so I have to cancel. And when I expect that I'll be late, then I have to cancel the class. I've been too busy lately, forced to be out of location to attend certain certain events, certain events that have to be attended by the deans and the directors of the kuliah and centers at Unishams. So yeah, I apologize. Inshallah, we can have another Zoom meeting soon. If you have trouble to write your article, yeah. So because I encourage you to write and present, even if you are not registered yet, but consider it as one exercise that will hopefully help you in your future career. Yeah? If you're a lecturer, you have no choice but to present lots of papers and publish lots of papers. So if you have published lots of papers already, Alhamdulillah. If you haven't, it's not too late. You have plenty of time to practice. I always encourage my students to present because presenting papers and published need to be learned by practice, in my opinion. There's no point of teaching you to write and present, yeah? You have to try yourself. For me, myself, I learned how to present, to write papers by practice, yeah? Yeah, when I was younger, I was bright enough to just submit paper and present and publish, yeah? So Alhamdulillah, I have some papers published. So I encourage you to present and publish. If you have questions, you can ask me or you can ask your colleagues, yeah. Bapak Fakri, Bapak Fauzi, Dr. Saiful especially, you can discuss among yourselves and don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't say, oh, I'm afraid my paper will write something that is wrong. I'm afraid I'll make mistakes. Don't worry. If you make mistakes, nothing will happen to you. You will not go to jail. And I make many mistakes when I write papers. So nobody charged me in court and sent me to jail. I'm still happy at home. So that's how we learn. Yeah? Okay. Inshallah, remember the date, the 7th.
Prof,
Yes, go ahead.
question about the conference, Prof.
Yes.
Yeah, as I told you last week that a lot of my students will submit their paper and join the conference, but they actually have a very low ability to speak in English and writing in English. So is it possible for them to submit in Indonesia in Bahasa?
Yes. It's stated in the flyer. Presentation in English or Bahasa Malaysia or Bahasa Indonesia. And there is a request to present in Arabic.
Alhamdulillah.
There's also a request by some participants
Oh,
to present in Arabic, although it's not stated in the flyer. But I said, it's okay. In Arabic, it's also okay. So yeah, encourage your students to write, to present. And then if you have any questions, there are two persons you can contact, Miss Hafsha and Madam Siti Fatima. Yeah? You can WhatsApp them. And I will give you the Telegram link. Remind me to give you the Telegram link to send your video. Yeah? And some of the informations will be given in the Telegram also. We have created the Telegram. What they say is what the committees, we have the registration committee, right? Consists of Miss Hafsha and Madam Siti Fatima. So what they say is once the presenters register, they will give the telegram and also the email. So the abstract is sent to the email. The video is sent to the telegram. For the reason that sometimes we have trouble because the video did not reach us. We cannot, download the video from email. So if you send the video to Telegram, no problem, inshallah. So first, encourage them to register. If you have any questions, you can WhatsApp them. For example, Dr. Safo, if you want to say, can you please check how many students from Indonesia have registered? You can WhatsApp
okay.
any one of them. They will give you the information.
Yeah. Okay, Prof.
Any questions, you can WhatsApp them. I'm the director of the conference, but I'm too busy to look at the detail. Yeah? I just look at the big picture. And I'm supposed to write a letter, yeah, to invite ITB to be the co-author, because I just put the logo of ITB without asking permission. Yeah? But I've been too busy to think about this. Yeah, sometimes what do you say? I forgot certain things because I'm the director, means the dean, yeah, and also the director of conference, yeah, and the chief editor of the journal at the same time. So, so it's like a one-man show, and I told them, "Hey, I'm not a Superman, you know." Sometimes they expect me to be Superman, to lead everything, yeah. So make dua for me. I'm hanging in there. They make me a leader for important events. Okay. And I also have the highest number of PhD students. Huh? Now I have more than 10 already. So make dua for me so that I can remain strong, inshallah, to do, to continue doing,
Amin. Salam, bro.
inshallah. So any other questions? Inshallah, next time we'll continue this discussion on qualitative research, and then we'll go back to quantitative to discuss on population and sampling when we do the questionnaire. Make sure you do your literature review according to the template. Please fill in the templates. Then you can do a much better literature review. So try to practice like that. Because most people, they do literature review after they read the literature one by one. Yeah? That's not the best way. The best way is you read all, you input in the template. Later on, you can compare and contrast, you can synthesize. Synthesize means you find the the findings that are more significant than others. Yeah. For example, you say based on the interview, based on the literatures, based on past literatures, you say, for example, 28 out of 30 research have shown that attitude is a significant variables. Only 2 studies shown that attitude is not significant. So the synthesis is attitude is significant, as proven by most of previous studies. And that's how you do the synthesis. Yeah, you want to find which qawl is stronger than the other. Yeah, which findings is stronger than the other. Yeah, that's just an example. Okay. Any other question before we start? Oh wow, we have met for almost 3 hours. Non-stop this time. Alhamdulillah. So if there's no other question, any question? If there's no other question, that's it, the class for tonight. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. I apologize if I make mistakes. Okay, thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih,
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, Prof.
Okay, good night, everyone.
Good night, Prof.
Night.